again, episode 4 on this journey into what is a tree, based on research into the idea by this guy, Johann von Goethe, from his book The Metamorphosis of Trees. I gave the quote in the beginning, maybe you can see it there, number 110 section, about the idea that the buds on a tree are lots of annual plants, and so a tree is a community of plants growing together. And this is the result of my research, really in depth since 2015. I say in depth, on and off when I had time. So in the last video I asked you to think about how the wood was formed on the tree. We talked earlier, mentioned the cambium, but did the wood come from the cambium from the bottom up, everywhere all at once, from the top down, or some other way? Now when I came across this, before I started looking into it, I just assumed that the cambium produced, as it says in the, if you look online or in books, it says the cambium produces the wood on the inside, and the xylem on the inside, and the phloem on the outside, so the bark side. So this liquidy area creates the inside and the outside. My initial understanding was that the cambium produced the wood on the tree everywhere all at once, gradually, so the tree just got thicker throughout the year, throughout the trunk, throughout the branches, throughout the roots, and then there was the new ring, or two rings as we mentioned before, but basically one ring with a delineation, thinner ring, which is usually darker. So I thought, and I don't know how you answered obviously, that the cambium produced the wood everywhere. But then when I thought this, or started thinking about this, I remembered the work of Shigo, the American forester that researched fantastically into trees over the years. And I remember him talking about the idea that there were branch collars holding the branches on and giving mechanical strength to each of the branches, because obviously if you imagine a piece of wood, if you stick a piece of wood into it like a branch, how's it held on? Because branches are very, very strong, the connection. And I thought, okay, so in his work he talks about branch collars, which if I show you exactly what I'm talking about here, this is a branch collar where it joins onto the tree. You can see there are ridges. He talks about branch collars. He gives some images, there's some, and then he breaks it down by saying that the wood on the branch grows first onto the trunk, and then the wood on the trunk grows down over that to give it a kind of lip over the branch wood that locks it into the tree each year. There's an example breakdown of how it lips over. There's a couple of examples of bits of wood here showing this ridging. Another one, not the best examples, but you know, it'll give you an idea, and goes from the smallest part at the beginning, which would have been the pith when the branch started, and then each year one of these rings. Now, Shigo says this idea of the branch growing first and then the trunk growing down and making these lips, and those lips give strength to the branch connection. Now, that was the accepted understanding until a paper written by a couple of people, Slater and Harbinson, which said that Shigo's example of the branch collar is incorrect, and they talked about the fact that it was incorrect because when you get two stems together, called a codominant stem rather than a branch coming off a trunk, then that doesn't answer the strength connection. I've got an example here. This is a section of a codominant stem where two stems are growing together. A co-dominant. They're both, both equally. There's a fork going up the middle. So I mentioned that because I'm going to discuss that later. It's going to become relevant. So they challenged Shigo's idea, but it seemed, the more I looked into it, that there was an accepted idea that the cambium doesn't produce the wood everywhere all at once. It actually follows what Shigo said and comes down the branch onto the trunk, and then down the trunk, and all of it goes down, and that's called basipetal growth, meaning downward growth. So the wood actually is produced from the tips coming down the tree like a skin each year right to the tips of the roots. So now we know the direction of the wood. That's another step on the journey. Here you can see just an example. This is a trunk that's come down. There's a branch here, there's collars connecting it, but this is unusual because this branch has gone across and caught on another trunk when it was built like that, or was being grown. And you can see that branch, if you look carefully here, this little thin one. Now they're different sizes. That's because that one was strangled by this trunk, and this branch crushed it, so there could be no more growth on that. But what happened is, when the wood from this trunk came down, you've got an example of rings here, you can just about see, the wood started travelling down that branch section onto that side. So the wood came down the tree and flowed off that way, every year thickening it up, leaving that one with nothing. So for me that begs the question, if the cambium is producing the wood, and the wood is coming down the tree, or coming down a branch first onto the trunk, and then the wood is coming down and over that, how does the cambium know to change the wood production direction? Because if it's coming down a branch that way and onto the trunk, but then being locked in place by the wood coming that way, that same liquidy area is producing wood that direction and then that direction. How does it do that? That made me question a bit more. So I think we'll go on to the next topic with the next video, so I'll leave it there.